Hi friends, today we're going to be looking at measure with length units, and we're not going to be using a ruler, we're going to be using paper clips, which is kind of strange, but you can measure with anything. I do have a story I want to read because I want you, I'm reading the story, I want you to think what the problem is in this story. It says, how big is a foot? And Mrs. B did find a ruler, and a foot is 12 inches. And here it is from end to end. And so let's see what happens in this story and what the problem is. How big is a foot? It's a very old book. It says, once upon a time there lived a king and his wife, the queen. They were a happy couple, for they had everything in the world. However, when the queen's birthday came near, the king had a problem. What could he give to someone who had everything? The king thought and he thought and he thought and he thought until suddenly he had an idea. He would give the queen a bed. The queen did not have a bed because at that time beds had not been invented. So even someone who had everything did not have a bed. The king called his prime minister and asked him to please have a bed made. The prime minister called the chief carpenter and asked him to please have a bed made. The chief carpenter called the apprentice and told him to make a bed. How big is a bed? Asked the apprentice. An apprentice is like learning from the carpenter. He's an assistant who did know, because at the time nobody had ever seen a bed before. How big is a bed? The carpenter asked the prime minister. A good question, said the prime minister, and he asked the king, how big is a bed? The king thought and he thought and he thought and he thought until suddenly he had an idea. The bed must be big enough to fit the queen. The king called the queen. He told her to put on her new pajamas and told her to lie on the floor. The king took off his shoes and with his big feet walked carefully around the queen. He counted that the bed must be 3 feet wide and 6 feet long to be big enough to fit the queen, including the crown, which she sometimes liked to wear to sleep. So here it is, 3 feet, 6 feet, the king's feet. The king said thank you to the queen and told the prime minister, who told the chief carpenter, who told the apprentice, the bed must be 3 feet wide and 6 feet long to be big enough to fit the queen, including the crown which she sometimes liked to wear to sleep. Now here's the apprentice, and let's think about how big the king was. The apprentice said thank you and took off his shoes with his little feet. He measured 3 feet wide and 6 feet long and made a bed fit for the queen. Uh-oh. When the king saw the bed, he thought it was beautiful. He could not wait for the queen's birthday. And again, here's the bed. I see a problem there. Instead, he called the queen at once and told her to put on her new pajamas. Then he brought out the bed and told the queen to try it. But the bed was much too small for the queen. The king was so angry that he immediately called the prime minister, who called the chief carpenter, who called the jailer, who threw the apprentice in jail. The apprentice was unhappy. Why was the bed too small for the queen? He thought and he thought and he thought and he thought until suddenly he had an idea. A bed that was 3 king's feet wide and 6 king's feet long was naturally bigger than a bed that was 3 apprentice feet wide and 6 apprentice feet long. I can make a bed to fit the queen if I know the size of the king's foot. He explained to the jailer, who explained to the chief carpenter, who explained it to the prime minister, who explained it to the king, who was much too busy to go to jail. Instead, the king took off one shoe and called a famous sculptor. The sculptor made an exact marble copy of the king's foot. This was sent to the jail. The apprentice took the marble copy of the king's foot, and with it he measured 3 feet wide and 6 feet long and built a bed to fit the queen. The bed was ready just in time for the queen's birthday. The king called the queen and told her to put on her new pajamas. Then he brought out the new bed and told the queen to try it. The queen got into bed, and the bed fit the queen perfectly, including the crown which she sometimes liked to wear to sleep. It was, without a doubt, the nicest gift the queen had ever received. The king was very happy. He immediately called the apprentice from jail and made him a royal prince. He ordered a big parade, and all the people came out to cheer the little apprentice prince. And forever after, anyone who wanted to measure anything used a copy of the king's foot. And when somebody said, "My bed is 6 feet long and 3 feet wide," everyone knew exactly how big it was. And so when we do measure, we have to be careful that we're using the same, whatever tools we're using, whether it's a ruler. This is a foot long. It's 12 inches equals a foot. So when you're telling somebody it's 2 feet, you would think in your head, oh, here's 1, there's 2, 24 inches. So everyone would know the size of it. Today, I pulled out a class activity from our math journal. It's kind of hard to see, but our unit that we're going to be measuring with, we're not using a ruler. I could, but they wanted me to use paper clips. And as long as I use paper clips and you use paper clips, it would be the same answer. Now, Mrs. B has, and it's a little tricky, I'm going to use, I think, my Scotch tape. But there's a little red ribbon here, and it says how long. So Mrs. B is going to do some measuring, but with paper clips today. I'm going to start at the end. Remember, when we're measuring, we always start at the end. There's one paper clip. And I'm going to put it right next to each other. 2 paper clips. Oh, I don't know if we'll get to 3. Let's see. It might be a tight squeeze. Might be. Let's see. We're going to right up. Oh, interesting. So it's about 2 and a half. I'm going to get my pencil. And remember, we talked about half. There's 2. And then remember, a half looks like that. So it's 2 and a half paper clips. And I'm sorry you can't see that. I'll do this. So 2 and a half, I'm going to put paper clips so we know the unit. It's a label. So we use 2 and a half paper clips to measure the red ribbon. All right, we're going to try the next one, which is a blue ribbon. Hold on. There we go. Now it looks smaller, so I wonder how many. I'm kind of comparing them. Let's see. And remember, I'm going to line it up. I'm starting right at the edge. And I'll put it, oh, let's see. There's one paper clip. Let's see. Oh, this one fits better. So this one actually takes 2 paper clips. I'll put it here. Not 2 and a half, 2 paper clips. Now there's a green pencil. It looks longer, so think about that. If this one was 2 and a half paper clips, this one was 2, make a prediction. How many do you think the green pencil will be? And again, I know it's hard for you to see. I will let you know, and I just ran out. I'll have to use my brown tape. I ran out of my Scotch tape. Here we go. Here's 1, and I'm lining it up right at the end. There's 1 paper clip. I'm making a prediction. I know it's longer than the red ribbon and longer than the blue ribbon. Okay, there we go. There's 2 paper clips. Oh, there's 3 paper clips. And oh, let's see. I would say it's about 3. This is a new number, a fraction. 3 1/4. We talked about quarter after on clocks. Let's see. Oh, yeah, because that would make it too long if I put up 4. So it's about 3 1/4 paper clips. All right, and our last one, the purple pencil. Again, let's make a prediction. It's not as long as that one. It's longer than the blue ribbon. Oh, it's about the same size as the red ribbon. Let's see. Make a prediction. What do you think? How many paper clips will it take? I'm making my prediction. Here's 1. And right up, I'm lining it up. Make sure it's equal. It's even. Here's 2. And I think we're right. If you said 2 1/2, because it's similar, it's about the same size as the red ribbon. It's about 2, and I'm touching those. All right. Yeah. It's about 2 1/2 paper clips. So again, you can use different things. You can use rulers, which makes the most sense, but you can use paper clips to do measuring. What unit will you be using? You can use a pencil. You can use a crayon and count out how long something is. All right, today for homework, you're going to be doing some measuring. There's going to be something you need to cut out, and you'll be measuring. It says cut out the paper strip. Measure the object in paper strips. So when you label, it'll say paper strips. And that's on page 177. You're going to be doing something similar, but you're going to have to cut out a paper strip and do some measuring and put the number. And then the remembering page is 179. So you have 2 pages to do for homework. All right, I'll see you soon. Bye.